morning, kids. Today, we're going to talk about a very famous Pharisee. Pharisee? What's a Pharisee? No, not fairies. No, not fairies. Pharisee. See, Jesus had lots of conversations with the Pharisees as recorded in the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now, Jesus really confused the Pharisees. He didn't speak to the people like the Pharisees did because they were just teachers of the law. He spoke like a lawgiver. He even declared people to be forgiven by God. And the Pharisees knew that only God could forgive people of their sins. And so they really didn't like Jesus at all. Let's hear what Jesus said to some of the Pharisees in the book of Luke. 2 men went up to the temple to pray. One, a Pharisee, the other, a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed. God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give 1/10 of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven. He beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. So I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. The problem with the Pharisees is that they tried very hard to keep all the laws written down by Moses in the Old Testament. And they even added some extra laws. But all these good works made them very proud of themselves. They looked down on other people who didn't keep all the laws like they did. They were not humble before God about their own sins, the ones that were hiding deep in their hearts. And Jesus said to them, Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside you're full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisees, first clean the inside of the cup, and then the outside will also be clean. See, they were trying to look clean and be clean, but they couldn't clean their own hearts. That's the part that God sees, though, isn't it? See, after Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected back to life and returned to his throne in heaven, Jesus decided to knock one very proud Pharisee off of his horse and strike him blind. Jesus wanted to talk to this guy who is hurting his people, the people that Jesus loved. Do you remember who that famous Pharisee was? His name was Saul. Well, he preferred to go by Paul. Once Saul got his eyesight back, he was able to see the world in a whole different way, and himself too. He was humbled before God. God showed him the sin and the pride in his own heart, and that he could never be good enough to get to God. Not all the rule keeping that he could do. He saw, however, that Jesus kept all the rules and pleased God perfectly, that Jesus was God, and he started to worship him. And Jesus told Paul that Paul would be his messenger to take the good news about the one true God, Jesus, to the world. So Paul started to travel to many cities, telling people to trust in Jesus, to make their hearts clean too. First, he went to his own people, other Pharisees and the Jewish people who worshipped in the synagogues and followed the Old Testament laws. Some believed, but many did not. In fact, Paul got in trouble by a lot of them, run out of town and mistreated. Why didn't they believe? Well, Paul tells us. He says, I can tell you for certain that they really do want to serve God, but what they're doing is not based on knowledge. They did not know that it's God's own power that makes people right with Him. They tried to get right with God their own way. They didn't do it in God's way, but Christ Jesus fulfilled everything the law was meant to do. So now, everyone who believes in Jesus can be perfect and right with God. Now, when the religious people wouldn't listen, Paul went to the Gentiles, the people that had different gods, or many gods, or even no gods at all. And he told them about Jesus. Now, after Paul visited the cities, he would later write letters to the new believers who lived there. That's why his letters have some strange names, like Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, and Colossians. Well, there's many more that he wrote too. So we live in Victoria, and if Paul was going to write a letter to our church in Victoria, he would write, this is a letter to the Victorians, right? He also uses the word justified a lot. Now, justified is a weird word. What does that mean?
Hello, I'm the Quiz Man, and today we have a quiz. Today's quiz is the word justification. You have to guess what it means. Alright, option A is to just go flying. Alright, and option B is to be declared righteous by God. To be declared righteous by God. And C, to have a juice and ice station. And D, the last one, is to have just one vacation. Alright. Okay, so is it A, B, C, or D? You can guess now. And if you guessed D, that one's wrong. That's the bad answer. If you guessed A, though, that's also wrong. B is the correct answer, to be declared righteous by God.
So Paul talked a lot about this because he knew that he tried so hard to be right with God by following the laws, but he needed God instead to declare him right. And he did that by knowing and declaring what Jesus has done. Jesus was the one that kept all the rules. Jesus was the one that pleased God. And so I want you to read Paul's letters for yourselves. They're some of my favorite, and they've got amazing things to say. So much good news about what Jesus did for us. And then instructions on how to live, how to honor God, what it means to follow Jesus and obey.
I got the real thing.